Welcome to lesson 8.5. These are some properties that logarithms have. We're going to discuss three properties, the product property, and the product property says this: if we have the log of any base of two things that are multiplied together, then we can split them into two logarithms of that same base, but we'll do log of u plus log of v. So when we have multiplication, it turns into addition. These two operations are related. The second property that we have is the quotient property. And this says that if we have the log of two things that are divided, it will turn into subtraction. So again, division turns into subtraction. And the last property on here is called the power property, and it says if we have the log of an expression that has an exponent, that exponent can come to the front and it becomes multiplication. The power property moves the exponent out into the front of that logarithm. Now let's do a few examples of the product property. The product property says two things multiplied will split into addition. So for example, log base 2 of 3x, we can turn this into log base 2 of 3 plus log base 2 of x. Similarly, if we have three things that are multiplied together, the natural log of a, b, c, we can change this to natural log of a plus natural log of b plus natural log of c. We can also go the opposite direction. We can condense expressions. In other words, we can take this addition and turn it back into multiplication. So for example, if I see the natural log of 2 plus the natural log of 6, I can change this to the natural log of 2 times 6 or the natural log of 12. Similarly over here, I can change this from being log base 3 of 20 plus log base 3 of 7 to log base 3 of 20, log base 3 of 20 times 7, which would be log base 3 of 140. We can also practice with our quotient property. This is where I take division and turn it into subtraction. So when I expand, I will go into two logarithms, so log base 2 of x. I'm always going to do the top first. So the top minus the bottom. So log base 2 of x minus log base 2 of y. And then over here with the second example, the natural log of 1/3, I can say natural log of 1 minus natural log of 3. And if we remember some properties, we might remember that natural log of 1 is actually 0. So this will actually simplify further into the negative natural log of 3. I can also condense and go the opposite direction. So if I start with subtraction, I can turn it into division. So this expression would read natural log of 15 over 3. Remember, the first number is that top value, is the numerator of my fraction, and I can simplify this to natural log of 5. Similarly, I can take this last example on this slide and change it to log base 3 of 21 over 7, which is log base 3 of 3, and if we remember some properties, that's just 1. It simplifies to 1. And the last property that we'll practice today is the power property. And the power property says that if there's an exponent in the expression, we bring it out in front and turn it into multiplication. So for example, if we expand, we're going to take this exponent here, bring it to the front, and this will expand to 2 log base 4 of x. The other example, the square root of x, if we can remember that square roots, we can write them as fractional exponents. This is actually log of x to the 1/2. And so we can take that exponent there, that 1/2 power, bring it to the front, and it'll simplify to 1/2 log of x. Similarly, we can also condense and bring values that are out in front back to the exponent. So this could simplify to log of 6 to the m power. And this last example, we could simplify that to natural log of 5 squared. This becomes an exponent here. And again, that'll simplify to natural log of 25 if we simplify it further. And finally, we're going to put all the properties together and expand some of these expressions with all the properties. So we may have to do more than one step. So number one, I see that I have two things multiplied. Multiplication turns into addition. So the first thing I'll do here is I'll split that up. And I'll get log base 2 of 4 plus log base 2 of x to the 5th. Then I see that I have this exponent of x to the 5th. I'm going to use the power property and bring that down. So I'll have log base 2 of 4 plus 5 log base 2 of x. And now there's nothing multiplied, nothing divided, nothing in an exponent, so that's how I know that I'm finished expanding. I can also expand number 2 into the natural log of a squared minus the natural log of b. And then again, if I have any exponents, I'm going to take this exponent, move it to the front, and I'll get 2 natural log of a minus the natural log of b. Nothing's multiplied, nothing's divided, there's no exponents. That's how I know I'm done. So number 3, I can expand this one into log base 5 of 7x cubed minus log base 5 of y. And then I also have some multiplication here, so I'm going to split that up and I'm going to turn that into some addition. And finally, I have that exponent floating around. I'm going to bring that to the front, and my final answer will be log base 5 of 7 plus 3 log base 5 of x minus log base 5 of y. And lastly, number 4, I'm going to change this to log of m to the 3/4 power. That's how these rational exponents work. And then that entire fraction comes to the front. I'm going to use that power property, 3/4 log of m. And that's how I expand when I have possibly more than one property to use. And finally, if once we've expanded, now the last thing we're going to do is condense. So when I condense number 1, if I have subtraction, that's going to turn back into division. So this will become log base 5 of 8 over 12. And if I have a fraction, I should reduce it to log base 5 of 2/3. Number 2, if I have a number out in front, I need to turn it back into an exponent. We're going in complete reverse direction. So if we ended with exponents on the other slide where we were expanding, now that we're condensing, we're going to start with those exponents. So if I see that, I need to move it back, and it becomes log of x squared plus log 5. And then that addition is going to turn right back into multiplication. So I'm going to have 1 log x squared times 5 would be 5x squared. Number 3, I have exponents. They need to go back. So I'm going to first do that. Natural log of x cubed plus natural log of y to the 5th. And then that addition will turn right back into multiplication. Natural log x cubed y to the 5th. I'm down to 1 log. That's how I know that I'm done. And our final example, I'm going to move this exponent back. So I'm going to have log of x to the 5th. And then this addition will turn into multiplication. So ultimately, I'm going to have log of x to the 5th times y. And then because I have this subtraction here, it's going to turn into division. Z will be on the bottom of that fraction. That's how I can condense having 3 logs into 1 log. And there's my final answer.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.